You don't know what you don't know until it happens, and then you wonder what was the cause and effect. So the higher my belief, the higher I achieve. The lower I have belief, the lower energy I put into it. If you get kicked around a lot and you lower your belief about what's possible, you stop caring, basically, and you start accepting. And the most important thing is when the first part of this LIDS assessment is your belief lid. You got the guy who's been in business for a month, he's almost a perfect score. And then you have the guy that's been in business for 6 months, it's almost a perfect score. What do you think is the difference between as you get bigger in business, your score goes down? What happens if your score is a perfect score because you're having so much success right this moment? It's just so obvious. And then what happens is, because if you would have scored me in 1999, I would have scored myself a perfect score because I was conquering and killing it everywhere. Everything was growing, everything was great. But here's the thing, you don't know what you don't know until it happens. And then you wonder what was the cause and effect. See, if we literally went and had you write down the size of your business and had everybody write their score down, what you're gonna find, because we did this across 4,000 businesses, the bigger your business is, the slower your score goes. It's called road rash. Right? It all seems like great, you're flying, you're killing it, and then all of a sudden, one of your guys that you're totally dependent in steals your van, disconnected the beeper, and you get invoices that you thought you paid commissions on that people say didn't even install in my house, and all of a sudden you're like, how could somebody let me down like that? And what happens is it's just one thing after another and after another and after another as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then at some point you learn to expect that a lot of it's going to go wrong the more people you inject into the equation and the less control you have. If you were a perfect score at duplicating your top people, you wouldn't have 2 people, you'd have 200 people. But so you don't have the reference point, you have 2. Anybody can get lucky with a couple people, especially if they're buddies. It's when you get 200 that you realize if you're actually good or not. Does that make sense? And so what we've been able to correlate is that the higher your score, almost always the smaller your business. Does that make sense to you guys? Because you start getting challenges with your belief. And so if you would have scored me in 1999, I'd have been a perfect score. If you would have scored me in 2001, I would have been like devastated. I would have scored myself like a 25%. And what that tells you is that at any point in your time, you need to be doing these scoring. And I'll tell you another thing, even in a $1 billion business, I've never met a business owner after they get over 50 million or 75 million that ever score themselves over like 105. Just reality settles in and you realize you're not nearly as good as you think you are. If you're a 10 in everything and then you get slapped around, the amount of internal resilience and fortitude you need to re-engage that higher belief, it's more difficult. If a couple people let you down, clients get pissed off, all of a sudden you lose that. I got the best guys in the world, and you're like, well, some are good, some are bad, to everyone's letting me down. So what happens is as you get bigger and you have more damage, you start lowering your belief, and see, all activity rises and falls on belief. So the higher my belief, the higher I achieve. The lower I have belief, the lower energy I put into it. So if you get kicked around a lot and you lower your belief about what's possible, you stop caring, basically, and you start accepting. And the reason I bring this up to you is as we were going through the process, as I get into the break points and start talking about it, business owners that have been beat up a lot tend to just settle and fortify. So if you're one of those people where like you're stuck, and that's why 98.3% of all businesses are stuck at 3 million or less if they're under 100 million, because they've been beat up. Every time they try to break through, they get beat up. Every time they try to break through, somebody lets them down. And so what happens is you just hang on to your 12 people as tight as you can, and you just hold it. But your costs are going up, and your inventory prices are going up, and your cost of goods are going up, and your payroll has to go up every year, and your taxes go up every year, and the city's charging you more every year, and your rent goes up every year. So you're fortifying, and at some point you're like, I'm not making any money. And so now you got to run off your highest paid people, the ones that have been with you the longest. So there's this cause and effect that happens. Almost every decision you make has a counter result. Does that make sense? So what you really want to do is you want to understand before you run into well, your enthusiasm is high and well, things are good. It's hard for you guys to go outside yourself and go, why do we need help from anybody? We're just killing it. We're doing great and everything's amazing, until it's not. But the problem is the speed in which you build things, law of Big Mo, the speed in which you build things, it can quicker disintegrate.